lovelies, and welcome to your stretching for splits video. So let's get this right straight away. You are not going to step off the mat and miraculously be in the front splits. Okay, it doesn't happen that quickly, I'm afraid. However, this video is going to be great if you would like to try to achieve more flexibility there and to eventually gain front splits. We're going to go through a series of stretches. Take your time. Be really careful not to force yourself into anything. If your legs are not feeling up for it, please don't force them into a posture. Just go within your limits and go to where feels comfortable for you, okay? So it's really important to work with your breath, try and help the body relax in a lot of these postures, and just take your time. You can do this video again and again, maybe once, twice a week, and then you will hopefully see that beautiful improvement through the flexibility. And you never know, you might end up in the front splits. Okay, so I am going to use one prop just for the start of this video. So I'm using one of my bands. You can use any band, one of mine. You could use a towel, a jumper, anything that you can hook over your foot. Okay, so we're actually going to start lying down for this video today. So I invite you to come down onto your backs, just allowing the head to fall comfortable, allowing the spine to get lovely and aligned, and just allowing the knees to be parallel. I invite you to work with your right leg first. So we're going to draw the right knee in towards the chest. I'm going to interlace my hands over the shin and ease that right leg in towards me. So at the start, we are simply opening out through the glute. So through the bottom, through the lower back, and we're simply easing that leg in towards us here, okay? So I'm going to lengthen the left leg now across the ground. So I'm continuing to hold the right leg close towards the torso as I lengthen that left leg away. So just taking a lovely breath here, we're opening up through the hip flexor on the left-hand side as well. Let's bend that left leg, so slide the left leg back in, staying with the right leg using your prop now. We're going to come into a hamstring stretch. Even if you can hold your leg, I invite you to use a prop for today's class, okay? So I'm holding the prop over the right foot. I'm going to keep that right leg straight. Very important that this right leg doesn't bend, okay? So we're keeping that leg straight, keeping the bottom on the floor, and simply bringing that right leg in towards you. And then when you can feel that stretch, you can feel the benefit, the hamstring opening up in the back of the leg, I invite you to simply hold here, okay? So we're going to stay here. We're not going to come in and out of the stretch. We're simply going to stay here. And with each exhale, try and bring that leg a little closer towards you. Now, if you can, we're going to straighten the left leg once again on the ground. You'll feel that range of movement instantly become a little bigger. You'll feel the difference in the pose. So then maybe you could just pull that leg in a little closer towards you. Maybe creeping your hand up that prop just to bring that leg in a little closer. Again, remembering to keep your bottom on the ground. Remembering not to bend this knee. If you find the knee is bending, ease off a little bit. You don't have to come in that close, okay? Let's gently pull in a little bit further if you can. We're going to stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then we're going to ease off, take the band out, pop that right leg down, foot onto the floor. And then when you're ready, hugging the left knee in towards you. So easing that left leg in towards you. Now you're always going to have one side of the body that is just naturally more flexible than the other, okay? So my front splits on the right leg are a lot more comfortable for me than the front splits on the left. So left side is always a lot more challenging for me personally. Let's start to lengthen the right leg now. So you're keeping that right leg long, easing the left knee in towards you. Now, it's really important to know that you have to maintain flexibility. Okay, you have to keep working on the stretches because as soon as you ease off, as soon as you forget about them, the muscles start to shorten, they tighten again, everything seizes up. So just because you reach that point of flexibility that you're happy with once, you still have to keep working on it. Otherwise, you'll lose it again, okay? So let's bend into the right leg using our prop, popping the prop over the left foot now and taking that left leg up, finding our hamstring stretch. So have an explore, play around, ease it in towards you. As soon as you feel a bend, ease off again, okay? Remembering to keep the bottom on the ground, using that prop. So I'm easing that leg in towards me, pushing my foot into the band so I really get a straight leg here. And at the moment, the right knee is currently bent, so we're not having any pressure here on this side. Everything is relaxed, hips are down, and we're using the out breath as we bring that leg in a little closer. And then only if you feel comfortable, you start to straighten the right leg on the ground. Keep easing that left leg in. And instantly you're aware of the difference here just by straightening that right leg, okay? So we're bringing that leg in, maybe creeping up the prop if you can. Try and keep your head and shoulders relaxed. All of this is opening up through the hamstring. So down the back of the thigh, into the bottom, the back of the knee, possibly into the calf as well. Keep easing that leg in. Every exhale, see if you can bring that leg a little bit closer. And then I'm going to lower that left leg down. I'm going to leave my band on that left leg. So I'm going to put both legs on the floor, taking both arms overhead, a full body stretch here. And then I'm going to roll myself up to seated. You can roll up, come up however feels comfortable for you. I'm going to shimmy my bum back. Now I'm going to pop this band over both feet. So the prop is going over both feet now, keeping the legs straight. Now get the fleshy part of your bum out the way. Physically pull it out the way. Don't be afraid. And hinge from the hips. So I'm hinging forwards from the hips here. I'm going to use the band and I'm going to pull myself forwards, trying to get the ribs down towards the thighs, pulling the toes up. So I get a stretch into the calves as well. And I'm using that prop to ease myself forwards. Every out breath, I'm going a little bit further as my hamstrings open up, as they start to lengthen, to release. Really think about the coccyx, the tailbone, lifting up towards the ceiling. So you're really trying to shine that light up so that you can hinge the body forwards a little bit further. Easing off through the upper body, maybe curving gently through the back. Taking one last breath here as we ease over. Big, slow breaths. And then you'll release the prop. We don't need the prop anymore, okay? You're going to peel yourself up. Let's bend the right knee. Glue the right foot to the inside of the left thigh, pressing that right knee out to the side. So we're open through this hip, but you're square to the left leg. And I'm going to creep my hands forwards now. So I'm not using the prop. I'm simply folding the body forwards. Same sort of thing. Coccyx is lifting high. You're hinging from the hips, trying to get the rib down towards the left leg now. The right knee's dropping out to the side. So we are opening out through that hip joint as well. Obviously, your hips are going to be incorporated in the splits, okay? Hip flexors especially. So we need to work on lengthening those out, as well as the quads, the top of the thigh. Just getting lots of mobility and warmth around the hips. Okay, let's ease ourselves up. Let's change sides. Simply straightening the right leg, gluing the left foot to the thigh. Drop that left knee out first, so the knee is dropping down, the hip is opening, and then hinging from the hips as you square up and creep yourself over the right leg. Okay, so hinging from the hips, allowing the body to come forwards, maybe flexing, softening that foot, whatever feels comfortable for you. And again, acknowledging which side of the body feels more comfortable. You're going to have a go-to side, okay? So my front leg will always be my right leg when I go down into my splits, because that for me is the most comfortable side. I still work on the left, but I know that my right side is going to be easier. So just exploring the body, noticing which side is more comfortable, and remembering that people are born naturally more flexible than others. Don't be alarmed if you think, oh my goodness, my hamstrings are so tight. That doesn't mean that you can't do this video just because you don't want to achieve the splits. It's still going to give you a great flexibility session, okay? So let's ease ourselves up. We'll bring those knees in. Come over onto all fours when you're ready. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Coming into a cow pose here and simply holding. So I want you to think about lifting your tailbone up towards the ceiling, really arching into that lower back. Eye lines looking forwards. Just taking a moment here, because the lower back, the glutes, they're all connected into those hamstrings. So we really need to lift and create space here. Then we're going to tuck our toes under, lift the knees off the floor, press yourself up into a downward facing dog. So the heels are going to fall heavy. Maybe have a little fidget through the legs if you want to, but then pressing the chest through the arms, lift that tailbone. I talk about that a lot, but try and really tip the pelvis upwards and let the heels come down heavy to the ground, okay? Let's take as many steps as you need. Walk the feet all the way into the hands, so you're in standing forward fold. Soften the knees slightly, but don't bend them.
Hinge from the hips, trying to get your ribs down towards the thighs. Weight is in the toes. Simply let the head dangle here, framing the face. So I'm taking hold of my forearms. Head is framed between the arms, and we simply dangle. So the weight should be in your toes, not in your heels. Knees are slightly soft, lifting the tailbone high. And really visualize the backs of those legs opening up. The hamstrings, the calves, behind the knees, all the way into the glutes, the lower back. Visualize everything opening up here, okay? Then we're going to release, pop the hands down, step back, find that downward facing dog again. So lift the hips high, finding that downward facing dog. Nice big tilt of the tailbone. And then we're going to come down onto the knees. Let's bring the right foot through towards the hands. So the right foot's going to come through first, okay? Uncurl the left toes. Make sure the left foot is relaxed. And we're going to gently rock in and out of our low lunge. So I'm just pressing forwards and then easing back. Now, it's important you get the alignment right here. As I press forwards, don't let the right knee go over the toes, okay? Don't have too sharp an angle on the knee. Very important that that left knee is further back. It's not underneath your hip. You need to be pressing the left hip flexor forwards, as that is an area we really need to work on stretching out, okay? Let's gently come all the way forwards. Bend the right knee. Bring your right hand on the inside of the right leg and walk that right foot to the outside of the mat. So my right toes and my right knees are pointing on the diagonal. Pressing the weight forwards. The left hip is pushing forwards to the top of the mat. And I'm going to pause here, okay? So hands are down, they're grounded, eye lines looking through. Very important, if you can't feel it, slide your left knee further back, but make sure the weight is coming forwards. The right knee's pressing out to the side. We're simply holding here, take a little breath, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a few ham curls. I want to fire up the hamstring. So you're going to flex the foot on the left leg and pump that heel towards your bottom. So I bring it in and in. It's a tiny movement, but can you see that I'm just firing up my hamstring? I'm trying to bring the left heel towards the bottom. I'm going to keep pumping it in for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now I'm going to sleeve the left leg there. Relax the foot. Take the right arm around the back. I'm going to grab that foot and I'm going to pull it in towards my bottom. So I'm pulling that heel towards my bum, pressing the left hip through still. Big stretch through the front of the thigh into the hip flexor. Do not forget to keep continuously pressing that right knee out to the side in the direction of the toes, okay? So keep pressing the weight forwards. Using a breath here, sending it into any part of the body that needs it the most, whether it's the left thigh or the right hip area. Let's stay here for 3, for 2, and for 1. We're going to ease off. Bring the right hand back down. Pop the left leg down. Now walk that right foot in so your right hands can come on the outside of the leg. And then straighten that right leg. Let's come back to half split. So I'm pulling the right hip back now. I'm going to flex the right foot. Walk your hands back slightly. Try and level out the hips so they're not twisted, yeah? Try and level out the hips. That tailbone lift I spoke about earlier, really try and lift the tailbone up. Now, if you can, this is quite intense. I'm going to do a few pumps of lifting my right heel off the floor. Have a look. I lift up and up. So I'm really firing up through the quad now, through the top of my thigh. You might need to lean onto a block, onto some books, onto some pillows. But I'm going to lift for 3, for 2, for 1. And then I'm going to do nose to knee pose. Fold the body over, bringing your body down in the direction of that right leg. I'm going to pause here. So what we did there was we're firing up the top of the thigh so that the back of the thigh now knows to relax and to lengthen, okay? So a couple of little cheeky techniques I'm throwing in there. But what I want you to do here is level out those hips. Think about that tailbone lifting high and your body is folding over that right leg. Taking a breath, allowing yourself to sink into this pose here. Slowly, slowly, taking a gorgeous breath. And then we'll bend back into that right leg, bringing that right leg back when you're ready. So you're on your knees once again. Have a little twist through those hips. And then once again, we'll drop the belly down, coming into our cow pose, eye lines looking forwards, lifting that tailbone high, pausing for a moment here, really enjoying that curve through the back as you open up through the hams. Now tucking the toes under, let's find that downward facing dog. See if the heels will go heavier. Maybe the chest will go through a little further. Really lengthening, creating space as those hips lift and the heels fall heavy. Let's take as many steps as we need again, walking the feet towards the hands, finding that standing forward fold. This time, can you tuck your hands underneath your feet? Don't worry if you can't, but if you can, stand on the feet. Let the head drop down, elbows slightly bent, lifting that tailbone high, ribs are coming down towards the thighs. Taking a beautiful breath here. Feeling that difference there as the toes are lifted. Possibly into the calves, you're feeling it a little bit more. Really try and creep the body down the legs here if you can. One last breath. And then we'll ease off the hands, stepping your feet back, finding that downward facing dog. Tailbones lifting high. And then coming onto those knees when you're ready. And we're going to bring the left leg through now, okay? So the left foot stepping through. We're going to do that little low lunge rock, okay? So we're simply pressing the knees through, making sure the left knee doesn't go over the toes, remember? We don't want to have too sharp an angle behind the knee. Making sure that right knee is far enough back. You don't want it to be directly underneath the hip either, okay? So a little movement here just to get us going on the other side. And then we're going to bend into the left leg, take the left hand on the inside, the left foot comes to the outside of the mat, the knee and the foot are pointing to the diagonal. We press the right hip forwards and take a moment to settle here. Now, like I say, one side's always more comfortable than the other. Maybe you want to lean your hands on a block, on a pillow, on a chair. Okay, if the floor is too far away, please do not be afraid to use props. That is what they are there for. Now remember that little hamstring fire up. So we're going to lift the right foot, flex it, and take a few heel pumps. So I'm pumping the heel towards my bottom. If this is too uncomfortable on your knee, know that you could put a pillow underneath your knee if you want to, just to support that area of the body. For 3, 2, I bring the heel in, relax the foot, take the left arm around now, find that foot, and I'm pressing that heel towards the bottom, pushing the right hip towards the top of the mat, continuing to press my left knee out in the direction of the left toes. Taking a gorgeous breath here, because for me, this side of the body is quite tight, so I'm really feeling it here. So take a breath as I'm pushing my right hip further to the top end of the mat. And then we'll gently ease that leg off, uncurl the toes. Bring that left foot into the middle now. So one hand's either side. I'm going to straighten the left leg, take a moment to level out the hips. Bringing the hands back and then flexing that foot. Now I'm going to do that little quad pump. So I'm going to lift that left foot, okay? So I'm going to go up and up. So it doesn't have to be high. It's simply to fire up the thigh, the hip flexor. You could lean onto blocks, pillows, whatever you need to. We're not here for long. For 3, for 2, and for 1. Then I let the body curve over, finding nose to knee pose. Leveling out those hips, hinging from the hips, folding the body over. Taking a beautiful breath. Whether you want to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, whatever breathing style works for you. This stretching series, I am just focusing on the stretches. I'm not taking you through a yoga practice or a Pilates class. We are simply focusing on the stretches. So the style of breath is whatever works better for you. Really think about pulling the left hip back, right hip's coming forwards. And then we're going to bend into that left leg, bring that left leg back. Let's tuck our toes under, finding a downward facing dog whenever you're ready. Tailbones lifting high, easing the hips up, 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 up. And then walking the feet in towards the hands. I'm going to turn to face you here because what we're going to do is come into a wide leg forward fold. So you're going to step your feet as wide as you can. Toes are facing forwards. Hinge from the hips and fold your body down towards the ground. The weight should be in the toes, not in the heels. Okay, so make sure you're bringing your weight forwards. You might want to be leaning on a block, on a chair, on a cushion. You might be able to have your forearms on the floor. You might be able to get your head down onto the ground. Wherever you are, I invite you to stay there. Think about tilting that tailbone high, lengthening through the backs of the legs, the weight's coming forwards into the toes. Using a breath, there should be no tension through the body here. Really feeling everything opening up, inner thighs expanding as well. And then we'll come onto the hands, turn your toes out to the side, the heels are coming in, taking a few little side lunges here. Okay, so I'm bending into one knee and then the other, simply pressing open through those hips. I'm not lifting the heels at any point, okay, so my heels are staying down, simply bending, getting some movement, some dynamic movement into the legs here as I move side to side. Just opening out through the hip joints, lengthening through those inner thighs. Let's hold in center, toe heel the feet back towards one another. Standing here in your forward fold, see if you can wrap the arms behind the legs. Maybe you want to hold on to the calves. Maybe you could wrap and hold the forearms. Try to keep the legs long. Okay, weight is in the toes predominantly, but don't go too far forward. You might feel a little off balance here. Really trying to fold yourself in half, bringing the hips high, body's folding down the legs. And then we'll ease off, bring the hands to the floor. Stepping yourself back to your downward facing dog. Lift the tailbone, heels heavy. Now I invite you to bring your right knee through towards your right wrist for a little pigeon stretch here. So right knee through towards right wrist. Make sure the heel's coming out from underneath you. Left knee goes down. Slide that left leg back. So I'm just coming forwards a bit. Make sure your left knee is on the floor. Top of the left foot's on the floor. We're going to fold over here in pigeon. So just let the body melt over. So really important to open out through the glutes, through the lower back here as well. But think about pressing your left hip flexor forwards. I don't want your left hip pointing to the side. It should be coming to the top of the mat. And the right glute is just off the ground, okay? So taking one more breath here as we're settling here. And then we'll press up onto our hands, bringing the left heel towards the bottom if you can, taking your right hand. So a similar variation to what we did in our lizard, but we're doing this in pigeon. So I'm going to be pulling that heel in the direction of my bottom, really pressing the left hip flexor through here. Hopefully the legs are easing off, not feeling as uncomfortable anymore. Then we'll release that left leg, plant the hands down, bring yourself back into a downward facing dog. Pedal out the knees for me. So just invite you to press one heel down at a time, bending into the knees, trying to keep a straight spine here. Hopefully your spine is going longer now. Don't feel like you have a curve. We've got a really nice movement through the lower body. Let's bring the left knee through towards the left wrist. Make sure that heel's coming out. The right knee goes down. You're sliding that right leg back. Make sure the left glute's off the floor. Right hip is pressing forwards. And then we fold over. Allow the body to curve over here. Really settling through that glute into the hip, into the lower back. Visualize everything opening up, easing off. Taking a beautiful breath while we're here. Allowing yourself to find comfort, to find a settled posture. And then we'll slowly press up onto the hands. A similar variation to before. We bend the right leg. Take the left hand around. Try and ease that heel towards the bottom. Maybe take the right leg a little further back. Keeping both hips pointing towards the top of the mat here. Now your legs should be feeling a lot looser, okay? Let's pop that right leg down. Come back into our downward facing dog. Again, have a little pedal out, a little twist through the hips, a little step through the feet, whatever feels good. Let's leave the left foot in the center of the mat and sweep the right leg up. Come for a three-legged downward facing dog. Right leg's coming high, left heel's going heavy. We bring the right knee through towards the chest. Step the right foot in between the hands. Now we're going to straighten the right leg, finding a variation of pyramid pose. Both hips are square. Don't twist. The left heel might be lifted. Bring it in a bit until you can get that left heel onto the ground. And then folding your body over the right leg. So I'm doing nose to knee pose again here, but standing. Both feet are pointing to the top of the mat. Make sure the heels are heavy. Again, you're thinking about that tailbone, that coccyx lifting high, hinging from the hips, folding the body over that right leg. Enjoying this pyramid pose, this gorgeous variation here. One last breath as we open up through that hamstring. And then we'll bend back into the right leg. Step your left leg further back. The heel is off the floor. Eye line's looking forwards. We're in a high lunge here. So right foot's flat, left heel's pushing away. Taking a moment to drop that left hip flexor maybe a bit closer towards the ground. And now plant your hands down. You're going to sweep that right leg back up, finding a three-legged downward facing dog. So the right leg's lifting high. Pop that right foot down, have a little fidget, have a little play. Then the right foot goes into the center of the mat. The left leg sweeps high now. So bring that left leg up high, easing the right heel down heavy. And then we're going to bring that left knee through towards the chest, stepping the left foot to the top of the mat. Okay, we're going to straighten that left leg. Bring the right foot in as much as you need to until the right heel goes down on the floor. Pyramid pose, both feet are facing the top of the mat, both heels are heavy. You fold over, hinge from the hips. Bring the body over that left leg now. Trying not to twist, trying to keep the body square. Using a gorgeous breath as you allow that hamstring to really open up here. Settling, finding your comfortable place. Hamstrings definitely had a gorgeous stretch out this evening or today, whatever time of day you're doing this class. Let's bend into that left leg. Step the right leg back. The right heel is lifted. Eye line's coming forwards. We settle here in high lunge, pressing that right hip lower towards the ground. And then we're going to plant the hands, sweep that left leg up, finding our three-legged downward facing dog. Coming down, both feet on the floor. Walk the feet towards your hands, standing forward fold. And we're going to pedal while we're here. So one knee bends, then the other. Simply moving into the hips. Getting some mobility through the legs, into the knees, keeping that body folded over though the entire time. And then slowly walk the feet back, finding that downward facing dog. And we will bring the right knee now through towards the chest. Step the right foot to the top of the mat. Pop your left knee down. Uncurling your left toes. Lifting up through the chest. Popping both hands onto the right thigh. Press away. Find a little psoas stretch here. So roll the shoulders down the back. Continue to press that left hip flexor forwards. Taking a beautiful breath. And then you would bring your hands down either side of the right leg. Now you can either stay here and just focus on this gorgeous low lunge, or you can start to try to lengthen the right leg forwards, sliding the left leg back. Depends what sort of surface you're on as well as to how you slip and slide into this pose. But coming down into the splits, you want to have your hands creeping close towards you. Maybe have your hands on some blocks if that feels more comfortable for you. And you would gently just allow yourself to settle here in your splits pose. Please don't worry if you're not there. It's really not the end of the world. But eventually you might find you get closer and closer and closer. You can roll onto your bottom to bend that right leg in, coming over onto all fours, tucking the toes under, and again finding your way into downward facing dog. This time bringing the left leg through, Stepping the left foot through to the top of the mat, the right knee goes down. You uncurl the right toes, both hands come onto the left thigh now. You're pressing away, but pushing the right hip forwards, rolling the shoulders down the back, really pressing forward so we get that psoas to open up beautifully. And then both hands would come down to the ground, holding in your low lunge if that feels good for you, or if not, sliding forwards. Remembering each side of the body is very different. You want to walk your hands a bit closer towards your hips so they're not too far forwards. For me, my left side, like I say, always a lot more uncomfortable than the right. But just settle. Use props. Lean onto props if you want to. You could also put a prop underneath your left hip or underneath your right thigh to help you stay lifted. Or you could use your hands, use some pillows, whatever helps you to feel a bit more comfortable in these front splits. Rolling onto the bottom, bringing the legs back, coming up and over onto all fours once again, finding that cow face pose, but this time moving through and finding your cat pose as well, chin to chest. One more time, dropping the belly down, eye line forwards, and easing off, rounding that back as you push away. Gently bringing yourself bottom to heels, reaching all the way up to the ceiling. Take a full body stretch as you lift out of the hips and exhale as you float the arms down. Awesome. So that was your stretching for splits video. Even if you're not going for the splits, hopefully you will feel like your hamstrings have had a very big stretch out there. Also into the hip flexors, the quads too. Any questions? Let me know, and I would love to hear how your progress is going.